Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. People online, people here, Tushita. Let's start with some quiet reflection and motivation. So please be comfortable. Upright is useful. And just bring your attention naturally to the body and the contact of your body with cushion or chair. And allow your senses to slow down somewhat. They may have been speeded up during the day due to so many inputs from the environment, our work, or whatever, travel, and also a lot of stimulation from inside, from the mind. So allow that to just gently settle, as though we had been shaking, let's say, a glass bottle, glass jar full of water, but also with dirt inside. And you shake it, and then the dirt is shaking around inside the jar. Then when we just put it down, the soil, the dirt just subsides down to the bottom of the jar. There's a sense of tranquility. So allow oneself to relax in the present moment, but with a state of also being very alert, wakeful. And we could bring our attention to the breath, this natural breathing in and out. And perhaps the thoughts that keep on coming, let us not take them so seriously, but let's acknowledge them, recognize them, and then just let them go, not chasing after them, not developing a story, just letting them go and coming back to the sensation of the breath. Let them come and go like maybe gentle waves on a vast ocean, or even strong waves, because as one plumbs the depths of the ocean, there is calm and tranquility. So what the thoughts represent are just something happening on the surface. We don't need to get so disturbed by them. Let the mind be like a vast ocean or a vast sky. Whatever arises, let it arise, let it come and go within the vastness of that space. Sky remains sky. It cannot be really affected by these temporary, fleeting thought events. A sense of relaxing, dissolving almost, and letting go as we breathe out. So for our motivation, we can just reflect briefly in the following way. We can remember the kindness of the Lord Buddha, who taught a path, the stages of a path, and a wide variety of teachings suitable for different minds, different aspirations. He gave teachings which helped us to be basic, decent, steady, moral beings. With control over our minds to such an extent that one could attain freedom from the disturbing emotions, the ignorance, the attachment, the anger, and so forth. He taught that path. Out of his great compassion, he also taught the vast path, the great vehicle path of Mahayana for those beings who could be inspired by the vision of the Bodhisattva, the being who works tirelessly to generate the mind of full awakening of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings and lead others also to Buddhahood. So that vast mind that takes responsibility to benefit others, how to generate that. This was also taught by the kind Lord Buddha. And for those who were most skilled and committed, he also taught the Vajrayana teachings, how to investigate and utilize the most powerful inner subtle energies of the body and mind and how to completely transform our vision of the world to develop a very pure perception, to go beyond ordinary appearances and ordinary concepts, so that the path to full awakening could be traversed very quickly for those qualified and diligent in their practice. So Lord Buddha taught all of these different vehicles, the basic vehicle, the great vehicle, and the diamond path or Vajrayana vehicle, all in order to lead beings to greater and greater happiness, to liberation, to enlightenment. Nothing occurs without a cause. It is said that the Lord Buddha, that being who became a fully awakened person 2,500 years ago, had created countless causes for such an awakening, life after life, countless lifetimes, benefiting beings through the practice of generosity, the practice of moral conduct, of non-harm, and so forth, the practice of patience in the face of difficulties and in the face of the anger of others and so forth, practicing great patience, then practicing joyous effort, energy, exertion, giving up the three kinds of laziness, of procrastination, of engaging in meaningless worldly activities, and of having self-doubt and giving up, in a sense, on oneself. He gave up all those different aspects of laziness and blazed with the energy of an awakening warrior. He practiced the concentrations that enabled him to develop a single-pointed mind, and beyond that also the various kinds of clairvoyance and special powers that could then be utilized to benefit others even more. And of course, he generated great wisdom, realizing the ultimate truth beyond deceptive appearances, the truth of selflessness, shunyata, emptiness. So all these practices were engaged in life after life after life. Sometimes while describing some of the previous lifetimes of the Buddha, His Holiness the Dalai Lama would weep while teaching this, of the great actions, dedicated actions of the Bodhisattva on his path to Buddhahood. So by listening, by just listening, to even a fragment of the great life story of this awakened being who achieved the summit of achievement beyond which a human cannot go. So by listening to this, may we be inspired to investigate further this great biography as enshrined in different texts, but especially in this one, the Lalitavistara, and to dedicate ourselves as much as we can in the same way that the Bodhisattva did. May we see whatever corresponds in the Buddha's life with our own lives and utilize that discovery, that knowledge in the best way. Those who already have benefited from the teachings of the Buddha for many years through their study and practice, please spend a few minutes reflecting on that and rejoicing that one has met these teachings and the great teachers we have all met who have guided us. Great teachers meaning those who have understood and who practice these teachings in a very pure, perfect way. There have been many of them who have even been to Tushita and taught here. So we can rejoice in our good fortune, in our interest. And all of us here at Tushita and online should definitely rejoice in our giving up a few hours to, spend some time listening to this biography. How wonderful it is that for a short time we were able to take time away from our busy lives to bask in the glory, in the inspiration of this unusual, highly unusual life. So please rejoice, thinking how wonderful it is, uplifting one's heart and mind with gratitude towards the Buddha and our kind teachers who have already introduced us to his teachings. So sometimes it's useful to be reminded of the traditional methods that are taught. So there's a way of reflecting before we hear, teachings connected with the Buddha, with his life, the path. One that may be good to remember now is that when we listen to something like this, we can imagine, we can feel that we are a sick person. We are a sick person in need of a doctor. In other words, we are sick. Yeah. And the teachings and the sharing that's going on, that is like the medicine. That is like the medicine that can cure us of our disease, of our sickness. And the person expounding is like a doctor. Of course, the great doctor is the Buddha, but the person here, just the spokesman, is like you could say, junior doctor or whatever, sharing the teachings. So that's the doctor. And then we should then also make the aspiration to take the medicine. In other words, not just take the medicine home and put it on the shelf, but actually take the medicine. So in other words, practice the advice of the great sage, the Buddha. And another very important aspiration, motivation given by different traditions. It's in the Lamrim tradition of the Yellow Hat school, the Gelugpa school, as well as I've heard it from other masters, which is as we listen, or at least at the beginning, we make this aspiration that how wonderful it would be, excuse me, how wonderful it would be if the teachings could remain for a very long time. Everything comes to an end, and these teachings will also come to an end at some point in this world system. And then there will be eons of darkness, it is said, when there are no teachings of the Buddha in this world system. The teachings come and they go. There have been, of course, countless beginningless Buddhas, but there are vast periods of time, often in between, where there are no teachings. And of course, for ourselves, individually, circumstances can make us lose touch with the teachings through sickness or disability or death. So we should make that collective, aspiration on the collective level that may the teachings remain in this world for a very long time, because they bring benefit, comfort, benefit, great benefit to beings. And on an individual level, may oneself have access to these teachings for a very long time. May we not be separated from the teachings for a very long time. So this can be useful to think in this way. And another gem from the tradition is that how to listen. So this is one way, these attitudes we just mentioned, but there's also teachings on what they call the three examples of the pot. So we should not be like an upside down pot, meaning our mind should not be closed. It should not be upside down. It should be receptive. Secondly, it should be not like a pot with holes in it. Whatever you put in, however delicious the food or nectar, it just dribbles out because there are holes in the pot. So our mind should be a little bit retentive, if possible, not like a pot with holes. And the third, it should be like a pot or container. It should not have any old, stale food in that pot, so that whatever fresh food one puts in, it would get spoiled, getting mixed up with the stale food. So in other words, our mind should be free of bias, free of negative thoughts, free of these corrupting influences while we listen and discuss these teachings and so forth. So I think this is good. This is good to remember these things, because the mind is very distracted. Sometimes it is closed, and very often we have so much buzzing around in our head that we do not really have space in the mind, or whatever we receive gets corrupted with our own prevailing bias, ignorance, or even negativity. Sometimes one might come to a teaching just wanting to criticize or pick holes in it, or, so that receptivity could be lessened. Yeah, so we should remember the three examples of the pot. Yeah. Is there anybody here at Tushita who is new to the Buddhist teachings, or almost new? Okay, one, two, kind of new. Yeah, okay. Right. So the one other thing which is good for all of us to remember, and maybe good for our new friends at Tushita, is that there are four seals, or four seals, four sort of, how shall we put this? There are four things that if we understand and accept them, then we are really in tune with the Buddha's understanding, even if we call ourselves a Buddhist or not. The four seals, these kind of seal, they give authority to the teaching as being a Buddhist teaching, like applying a seal, like a king, queen would apply a seal to a letter with their seal so people know it's from the king or queen, from a very valid authority. So the first is that all phenomena are impermanent, all compounded phenomena are impermanent. That means you and me and everything you can see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and even think about, really, all these things are changing moment by moment, split second by split second. Everything is changing. Everything is changing. And one could go into this for a long time, but then people would be upset because we would not be talking about the Buddha's life. But actually, this is what the Buddha wanted us to understand. So in a way, one is not being disrespectful, or really, this is what Buddha taught. So he wanted, basically, he came to this world to teach us these things. But of course, his life is fascinating and inspiring, so we will get onto it, don't worry. The second seal is that all contaminated things are in the nature of suffering. One teacher translates this as all emotions are pain. All emotions are painful. So all contaminated phenomena. What is a contaminated phenomena? Well, for us, basically anything right now we can think of within this body-mind complex is suffering, because it is not giving us an everlasting state of satisfaction or happiness. Everything is changing so quickly. Pleasure is turning into pain. Yeah, good circumstances change into not so good circumstances. Life ends in death, meeting ends in parting, and there are so many examples we could give. Countless examples are coming up every day of how we are really basically magnets for suffering. Our body is a magnet for various kinds of ills and suffering. Our mind is also a magnet for suffering, however intelligent we are, or however high our IQ is, we still have so many aspects of consciousness of our mind which are attracting painful experience due to basically having this overarching ignorance, or holding on, grasping at a self-identity, an ego, if you like, holding on to me, I, me, mine, very strongly. Okay, so that all contaminated phenomena, meaning mainly this body and mind, are painful. Dukkha, Buddha would have used the word dukkha. Modern English word suffering is not adequate. It's a very vast spectrum of different levels of unsatisfactoriness. Third truth, the third seal, is that all phenomena are selfless and empty, meaning that everything from the person, oneself, to everything, again, you can see, all of the phenomena that are you can contact with your five senses and the mental sense power, all of them are without any kind of self-independent, intrinsic, solid self-nature or intrinsic essence. So the appearance of all these objects, including oneself, is deceptive, because to our senses and to our mental sense, everything appears to have something, some solid, independent nature coming from the side of the object itself. Whereas Buddhism teaches that objects, persons do not have that independent, solid self nature. They are dependent arisings. They depend on a vast array of causes and conditions which are coming and going, changing themselves again and again and again. So nothing is fixed and solid and independent from its own side. Everything depends on our perception, on the perception, as well as all of these causes and conditions. So anyway, that's a huge topic. But just to introduce you to these words, especially for new people, you might want to investigate more. Books can be mentioned that can help you with this. The fourth seal is that nirvana is peace. Nirvana is peace. So in simple terms, one could say that this means at a certain point, through training the mind, we can go beyond all kinds of ordinary thinking and concepts, any kind of conceptualization involving a thought or an image. All that can go, and we can have direct, kind of yogic, direct perception of reality, where there is no division between the observing consciousness and reality. They're like oneness or oneness. So when we attain that properly through practicing the path, one can attain nirvana, which is complete freedom from any kind of suffering. However, the life of the Buddha was not aimed at nirvana, although he taught nirvana. The life of the Buddha was not aimed at nirvana, because nirvana means you have liberated yourself, personal peace. You got out of the jail of samsara through practicing the three higher trainings, moral conduct, concentration, and wisdom. You did that very well. You got free of the jail, and that's very good. It's taught by the Buddha as one of the paths. But for the Mahayana practitioner, this is not enough. The Buddha taught that through developing great compassion, one could go beyond this wish just for one's personal liberation and work for the welfare of others continuously, to take responsibility for the happiness and welfare of others. And not just to feel that, but to feel that to do that properly, I have to actually become an awakened person. Because right now it's as though I'm a handicapped person, handicapped by disturbing emotions. So I cannot help others. I cannot even help myself as much as I would like. So I have to develop a very, very pure awareness, an awakened awareness, you could say, with many, many, many qualities in order to be of great help for others. We need the compassion, we need the wisdom, and we need a lot of skillful methods and powers to really benefit others. Right now, however much we try, we know that often, we don't even know what is the best way to help another person, right? We often just don't know. It's like, if we're not a doctor, we don't know how to help someone who has a particular disease, which for a good doctor would be something quite simple to cure or to understand. But if we haven't studied medicine and so forth, we just don't know how to help somebody. So the Buddha, it is said, has this ability to know exactly how to help. Doesn't mean he can help everybody, but he shows the path as to how we can cure ourselves, if you like. So anyway, nirvana is peace, sure, but just remember that nirvana is not the aim of a Buddha. I mean, a Buddha is beyond nirvana. They're in a state where they perpetually are manifesting countless bodies throughout the universe to benefit others in all kinds of ways. That is the capability of a Buddha. They can manifest countless bodies simultaneously in different places to benefit others. So, of course, that is something very extraordinary and wonderful and maybe unbelievable right now for us. But anyway, the Buddha can help in ways that we cannot even imagine right now, it is said. Okay, so okay, let's get back to our text. This is going to be like one of those, Amazon Prime or Netflix serials. It goes on and on and on. One could teach at least 8 or 9 seasons of this Lalitavistara because there is so much. The whole teaching is given, actually. It is interspersed. The life of the Buddha is actually interspersed with all these teachings, and we'll look at some of this today, how it is done. Because we will jump around a little bit. We will bypass some of the aspects of his life in order to focus on some of the very important teachings that are given. And one can always come back to this. This is going to take a few years to go through this text. And even that would just be skimming the surface, because basically all the teachings are contained in this text in some form or another. Yeah. So okay. Yesterday we were looking at the gateways to the light of the Dharma. What are the different methods, practices through which we can enter into the practices? Can one push the computer back just slightly? I just need to put this text here. Excuse me a moment. Just back a little bit without. Yeah, great. Yeah, plenty. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah. So that was chapter 4, Gateways to the Light of the Dharma. And some of you may remember some of the topics that we went through. Many factors are given. There's a particular formula that, for example, the perfection of generosity is a gateway to the light of the Dharma. And then they give the result of that, what that generosity leads to. Okay, so we were looking at that, not thoroughly. That would take, again, days and days and days just to look at that particular chapter. But for those who are interested in this teaching, you should look at chapter 4 and all of those gateways. And again, there's so many teachings. For example, in the 50th verse of chapter 4, it says, "Do not simply follow what other people say. Exert yourself with continuous concentration. When acting, one takes the opportunity. Without acting, one does not accomplish anything. Recall all the suffering you have experienced circling through cyclic existence until now. If you fall prey to distortions, nirvana and freedom from attachment will not be achieved." These are very basic, powerful teachings. Therefore, verse 52, having now obtained freedom meaning the freedom of a perfect human form, perfect human rebirth that you and I have, with access to teachings, a good body and mind, interest in the Dharma, facilities to study and practice Dharma. We have so many things available right now. Therefore, having now obtained freedom, a spiritual guide, and a conducive environment, having met with the superior teaching of Dharma, you should pacify attachment and the other afflictions. Freed from pride, arrogance, conceit, always flexible, upright, and honest, dedicate yourself to reaching the transcendence of suffering. Apply yourself to realizing the path. I think so much could be said about that verse. it's so easy to have a kind of worldly pride as an important, rich, or influential person. Then there's spiritual pride, which could be even more dangerous, to have pride in any tiny amount or imagined sort of spiritual quality that one has, and to develop pride and arrogance based on that. And then you, of course, misguide a lot of people, thinking that you can guide them, and when in fact one cannot. One should be flexible. Again, so important. Upright, honest. All these things mean so much, don't they? These words, at a time of degeneration, when there's so much dishonesty, lack of flexibility, so that people are supposed to be dharmic and religious are fighting with each other. So we wonder how much flexibility, uprightness, and honesty there is in us. Dedicate yourself to reaching the transcendence of suffering. Apply yourself to realizing the path. What need is there to say many things? Verse 55. What need is there to say many things? It is in your interest to follow this teaching. If you do not abide by this teaching, then it is not the fault of the teaching. So we get the medicine from the doctor. We don't take the medicine. Then we blame the doctor, and then someone asks, dawai liye theek se? Nahi liye. Bevakoof ho na. So when I attain awakening and shower down the teaching that leads to immortality, you who have pure minds should come and listen to the true Dharma. These are the words of the Bodhisattva. And this ends the 4th chapter. This is before he's even taken rebirth, by the way. This is all happening in Tushita heaven, in this text. Our center is named after that heaven. Yeah. Then he decides, and I'm going to skip, I'm afraid, chapter 5. So you can look at it. We might look at it another day. I'm going to skip entering the womb of his mother. Again, wonderful, and there's so much happening there. The actual birth, I'm going to skip the birth, again. The going to the temple, the ornaments, the demonstration at the writing school. There is so much that the young being, after he was born, manifested that was so amazing to the people who observed it. He knew so much from such a young age, was able to engage in elaborate calculations, mathematical calculations, for example, that stunned his teachers, So all of these and the writing and all of this is chapter 10. I want to skip to chapter 11, which is called the farming village. And then we'll spend a lot of time on chapter 13, the encouragement. So the farming village, chapter 11, starts in this way. Monks, on another occasion, when the prince had grown a little older, he went with the sons of the ministers and some other boys to visit a farming village. After seeing the village, he entered a park at the edge of the fields. The Bodhisattva wandered around there in complete solitude. As he was strolling through the park, he saw a beautiful and pleasant rose apple tree, and he decided to sit down cross-legged under its shade. Seated there, the Bodhisattva attained a one-pointed state of mind. And then it goes into these different concentrations that he developed. Now, you have been fortunate. Recently, Tushita hosted Ajir Vidyaji, who is here with us. He has given teachings on the shamatha practice. So I believe that the stages of shamatha practice, very wonderful as of course they are, lead to the 9th stage or whatever, where there is this flexibility of body and mind and the ability to engage in deep, lasting, peaceful, one-pointed concentration on whatever you want. But I understand that after the ninth stage of shamatha, there's still work to be done. And one can engage in, I think, what are called the dhyanas or the jhanas, which are described here just a little bit, that at this young age, the prince was able, it already accomplished shamatha and was able to go into these 4 jhanas. The first meditation concentration he entered under that apple tree, which is free of disturbing factors. It is accompanied by some thought, analysis, very subtle, of course. It's imbued with joy and pleasure, born of discernment. Then he came to the second meditative concentration, and as his mind became even more concentrated, he said, and it is said that concentration is free of thought and analysis completely, is imbued with the joy and pleasure born of absorption. Then, without any attachment to joy, he remained in equanimity with mindfulness and introspection. He didn't get caught up in the pleasure or the bliss of concentration. He went deeper into the third meditative concentration, which is without joy, impartial, aware, abiding at ease, as the noble ones describe it. He had already gone beyond suffering, and as he now abandoned the feeling of comfort, both mental pleasure and displeasure vanished. Thus, he settled into the 4th meditative concentration, perfectly pristine, with impartiality and mindfulness, unconnected with pleasure or pain. Now, of course, for us, it sounds weird. We would think we would want to have the bliss of meditation. We would want to have as much pleasure as possible, you see. But here, the wish of this great being is not to get stuck in any kind of meditative experience of pleasure, but to go beyond it to the deepest level of awareness possible, you know, in order to fully awaken the Buddha potential, or however one wants to put it. I mean, the God realm, as we mentioned, the God realm is full of beings who got attached to their meditation, to the pleasure, to the subtle pleasure of deep meditation, but they didn't go beyond it. Yeah, that's why they have long lives. They've created the cause for long lives of very subtle, pleasurable, trance-like meditation, but which is not beyond suffering. It is not imbued with wisdom, let alone compassion. So when that finishes, when the karmic energy for that meditative state finishes, they fall back into a lower form within samsara, a form where there will be suffering, and which is very powerfully miserable for them. So he went beyond all that, you know. And then they have this section of how there were 5 sages, 5 beings who had miraculous powers, flying through the sky, as apparently one can with certain powers. But then as they flew close to where the Siddhartha was meditating, they were stopped. It's like they couldn't go any further. And they realized that there was somebody very powerful meditating there. They got angry initially, but then they can, then they became very influenced when a goddess sang a verse to them telling them what was going on, because initially they got angry. Then they looked down, and of course, what happens when one develops all these concentrations that we mentioned? Naturally, one then develops miraculous powers, like these beings flying in the sky. If the Siddhartha had wanted, he could have spent the rest of his life flying in the sky and, manifesting things and reading people's minds and making a lot of money doing that, right? Foretelling people's future, telling them their past lives. He could have become a big event, a huge organization could have grown up around him, making money out of his spiritual powers, which come with these 4 concentrations beyond the shamatha level. But of course, that was not ever anything, that was never in his, he was never interested in anything like that. He was one-pointedly aspiring to liberation, to enlightenment. Yeah. So when these beings with special powers looked down from the sky, they saw a child blazing with glory and splendor, and they thought, who is this seated here? And so forth. Let's skip a few verses. It's all wonderful stuff, it's all wonderful material here, verses. If one were to skip to verse 33 of chapter 11, we go to the king. Now remember, the king, meaning Siddhartha's father, he's already anxious, isn't he? Because of the prediction at the Buddha's birth given by the great sage, one of the great sages, who said, your son is destined to become a great spiritual being, you know. And he didn't want that at all. Aapka jagah khali hai? Aiye ji? Yeah. Okay. Moved from online to in person. So here, Suddhodana, the king, he is now, you know, he's frantic, right? He is so much of his energy is spent trying to create a perfect, beautiful, pure environment for the young prince, so that he does not stray from any kind of pleasure, and he just has a wonderful time, and he doesn't even need to think about nirvana or liberation, because he's having such a wonderful time in the palace, you see. That's what the father wants. That's what the king wants. So actually the father, it seems like he didn't know that his son had gone to the farming village, and he is searching around his quarters asking, where's my son gone? His maternal aunt said, I've searched but did not find him. Your Majesty, please find out where the boy has gone. So Suddhodana frantically asking his attendants, the doormen, everyone, has anyone seen my son go out? And then someone says, Your Majesty, the Supreme One has gone to a farming village. So then the king hurriedly goes there, saw the prince sitting on a hill by the farming village, benefiting others and blazing with splendor like 1,000,000,000 rising suns. Taking off his crown, his sword, and his shoes, the king made salutations to the prince with his palms joined above his head. The king said, yes, the eminent sages speak eloquently and truthfully. The boy will surely leave home for the sake of awakening. And so then, yeah, then there's some dialogue between the king and Siddhartha. He gave some teachings to his father. Once he had instructed his father, he instantly returned to the supreme city, and in conformity with worldly convention, he dwelt in that city. Yet the pristine being, in other words, Siddhartha, had fixed his mind on renouncing the palace. And that ended the 11th chapter. Now, if we skip the 12th chapter, which is the demonstrating skill in the arts. So this is basically the Suddhodana, the king, feeling that, if he were to get his son married off, then he would stop having all these thoughts about leaving. And he is, of course, advised by his ministers to arrange a marriage for the prince. And then there's all that discussion going on, how to, get a... okay, so they ask, my son is difficult to match, said the king. So we should ask the prince himself which girl he prefers, okay? As everyone gathered and broached the matter with the prince, he told them, I'll give you an answer in 7 days. And he then thought, so this is Siddhartha thinking, I know the endless pitfalls of desire. They are the root of suffering. rife with conflict, enmity, and despair. Desire is threatening, like a poisonous leaf, like fire, like the blade of a sword. Sensual objects are not alluring to me, nor am I attracted when among a crowd of women. So I ought to dwell silently in the forest, with a mind stilled by the bliss of concentrated absorption. The prince first reflected, I'm staying in chapter 12 because I didn't realize it had these wonderful verses. Then we'll go to chapter 13, maybe. I hope so. Yeah. The prince first reflected in this way. Then, manifesting skillful means, he considered the ripening of sentient beings, how he could ripen beings' minds, and engendered intense compassion for them. He then spoke the following verses. Lotuses thrive in filthy swamps. A king receives veneration, surrounded by a crowd of people. When a bodhisattva obtains a sizable entourage, he leads trillions of sentient beings to the deathless state. The wise bodhisattvas who came before me, all were known to have wives, children, and harems, yet they were not enamored with desire, nor deprived of the bliss of meditation. I too will emulate their merits. Then there's a section which one, yeah, please, ladies here, please do not, mind. If the Buddha was a woman, it would just be a different verse. So anyway, an ordinary woman or man, lacking qualities of proper conduct and honest speech would not be suitable for me at all. Someone who pleases me, who is modest and perfectly pure in beauty, birth, family, and race would be fitting. And then he gives a whole bunch of qualities of what he wants in his future wife, but you won't find verses like this in Times of India matrimonial pages. She should be young and beautiful, but without vanity. She should be loving like a sister, fond of renunciation. She should be generous and disciplined towards priests and ascetics. Find a girl like this for me, O Father, without pride, conceit, hostility, without deceit, jealousy, or guile, not stray from uprightness. She should not lust after other men, even in her dreams. Content with what is hers, she should lie with her husband, free from carelessness, etc., etc. So all these things that he wants in all rather patriarchal, we might feel, She should know all the arts of love, but she should be the last to go to sleep, the first to get up in the morning, lovingly obey and be as guileless as a mother. Find me, O Father, a wife like this. So was Buddha a patriarch? Was the Buddha, politically incorrect? This you have to reflect, he's, the Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. It can be looked at in anyway. So then Suddhodana says, go, great priest, scrutinize the girls. If there's someone with these qualities, no matter whether she is a girl of royal caste, priestly caste, merchant caste, or servant caste, no matter. Oh, that's good. Report to us about that girl, because the prince is not after family or caste, rather he is interested in her qualities alone. So this is good. This is good. So then, my son is not enthralled by family or caste. His mind delights in good qualities, truth, and righteousness. Anyway, so they have this, and then they, skip these verses. Then there's the competition, and he excels in all of these worldly competitions. He excels, he wins all of the competitions. The people who are testing him in various ways say to the king, great king, you are so fortunate to have a son whose eloquent self-confidence is so swift, nimble, subtle, and potent in the face of questions. Son, can you match the ways of calculation with the great mathematician Arjun, an expert in the knowledge of numbers? I can, Your Majesty, responded the Bodhisattva. And then the Arjuna asked the Bodhisattva, child, do you know how to calculate the number called 10 million to the 100th power? Yes, I do, said the Bodhisattva. How then should one commence that calculation? And then there's a long paragraph with all these Sanskrit words, like 100 billion is a niyutta, and 100 billion, 1 quadrillion is a kankara, and all this is there. So Siddhartha knows the answers to all these questions. And the mathematician is astonished and says, and then he, from the biggest numbers to the smallest particles, he understands. This is chapter 12, verse 41. He knows all these things. And so therefore, of course, he wins the competition for being not only having a high IQ, but he can, engage in all the sports, so on and so forth. Wow, it gives a whole list of things that he is good at. The mundane arts and everything, leaping, writing, finger counting, computation, arithmetic, wrestling, archery, running, rowing, swimming, elephant mounting, horsemanship, carriage driving, bow and arrow skills, balance and strength, heroics, gymnastics, elephant driving, lassoing, rising, advancing, retreating, gripping with the hand, gripping using the foot. There's a whole, this is the Maha Olympics going on, Poetry composition, wow. Prose, painting, drama, dramatic action, tactical analysis, attending the sacred fire, playing the lute, playing other musical instruments, dancing, singing, chanting, storytelling, comedy, dancing to music, dramatic dancing, mimicry, garlands, stringing, cooling with a fan, dyeing precious gems, dyeing clothes, creating optical illusions, dream analysis, bird sounds, analysis of women, analysis of men, analysis of horses. What doesn't he know? The Vedas, grammar, etymologies, phonetics, metrics, composition, rules for conducting rituals, astrology, Sankhya philosophical system, yoga philosophical system, ceremonies, art of courtesans, Vaisheshika philosophical systems, economics, ethics, hydraulics, knowledge of demigods, knowledge of game animals, knowledge of bird sounds, logic, hydromechanics, beeswax crafts, sewing, wicker work, leaf cutting, perfume making. Or was that the attributes of the girl? Hold on, have I got it wrong? No, this was the Bodhisattva's, he knew all those things. So when that became clear, one Shakya guy decided, I think this guy is good enough for my daughter. So he gives away his daughter, the Sakya girl Gopa, to the Bodhisattva. And then they have all that, 84,000 women and this and that. This 84,000 is very popular in Vedic and India and Buddhism, right? So where are we? Okay, not too bad. So anyway, that's just part of chapter 12. Then the king, just as the last verse of the chapter says, the king speaking, just as my son is adorned with good qualities, his bride too is radiant with her own good qualities. That these two pristine beings have come together is just like butter and ghee, butter and clarified butter. So I don't know how butter and ghee come together, but anyway. So it's obviously there are some Vedic imprints here. Okay, just a sec. Chapter 13, entitled Encouragement. So this is a wonderful chapter. Kafi kuch isme hai. So it's loading. So while the Bodhisattva was staying in the midst of his retinue of consorts, there were numerous gods, nagas, all these different beings who were eager to make offerings to the Bodhisattva. And they arrived calling out in joyous voices. However, many of them began to then think to themselves, now, isn't this sacred being staying too long among the consorts? You know, ये तो खेल कूद में लगा हुआ है, मजा करने में. Isn't he spending too long doing this? There are beings who have been brought to maturity over a long period of time through the four means of attracting disciples, namely generosity, kind talk, meaningful actions, practicing what one preaches. Once he attains awakening, those beings would be able to understand his teachings of the Dharma. But perhaps all those suitable beings may be gone by then. So they want him to quickly attain enlightenment and start teaching. Will we ever witness the Bodhisattva, the sacred, supreme, and pure being, leave home as an act of renunciation? And once he's left home, will we see him sitting under the great king of trees, taming Mara and his army, and awakening to unexcelled, perfect, and complete Buddhahood? When shall we see him accessing the 10 powers of the Buddhas and so forth? They're asking these questions, Then it says, the Bodhisattva, of course, knew what would be the best time to do things. Thank you, sir. Very, very kind. He was his own master with regard to worldly concerns. For a long time, he had known the right time, the occasion, and the opportunity for the practice of all aspects of these roots of virtue. So in other words, he knew the best time, but of course he allowed people to create the good karma of reminding him and requesting, So anyway, it's just saying that all these things were new. At all times, the Bodhisattva knew whether the time was suitable or not, and he watched out for opportunities. Monks, for bodhisattvas who have reached their last existence, it is customary that the Buddhas, the blessed ones who dwell in the realms within the 10 directions, always come while these bodhisattvas amuse themselves in the female quarters and encourage them through singing and music to enter the gate of the Dharma. And so now, now these beings, the Buddhas, come and start encouraging the Bodhisattva. When witnessing others who suffer greatly, you previously made an aspiration to become their protector and refuge, as well as their supreme supporter and defender. Virtuous hero, remember your previous actions, your vow to help others. This is your time, your moment. So, supreme sage, renounce your palace. It is for the sake of those for whom you have previously given up the best of wealth and even your head, arms, and legs, that you will become a Buddha, the supreme tamer of gods and humans, the foremost in the world, storehouse of hundreds of qualities. The many beings afflicted by anger, blemished by hate, must be embraced by your love, O thus gone one. Those who are lost without any qualities of goodness, and the many unskillful ones, must all feel your compassion. So with your merit and wisdom, virtue pervades your body. With your stainless concentration and higher knowledge, you shine brightly, you illumine the 10 directions like the stainless moon free from clouds. So with much such pleasing words, accompanied by music, are sung by the victorious ones. They encourage the one who gods and humans venerate, saying, this is the time for you to renounce your palace. Then they describe again the beauty of the palace that Suddhodana had made for his son, the exquisite and perfect mansion where the Bodhisattva lived was a source of supreme pleasures and joy, and so on and so forth. The girls are delighted and joyful. They play fine melodies on beautiful instruments, etc. You know, all of that is going on. Now, further exhortation. In the past, you gave away your exquisite wealth and riches, even your hands, feet, and dear body. Great sage, now is your time. Open up the limitless river of Dharma for sentient beings. For hundreds of lives, you trained in patience. You had patience with all kinds of evil words from others. Through patience, you are forbearing, self-control, at ease. Lord of men, now you must decide to depart from home. And so on and so forth. All of these verses, you know, to remember your vows and so forth. Again, reading these verses is like, you know, receiving many wonderful Dharma teachings. They then give a list of many of his previous lifetimes, practicing what you were in a previous lifetime. For example, verse 42 of chapter 13. Previously, you were a virtuous, quick darting parrot that lived in a tree. Although the tree died, you remained, remembering its kindness. The King of God saw your virtues and rejoiced, and he restored the perfect tree to its former glory. Yeah? Okay, thank you. So, all of this is there. क्या हो गया?
Just checking the chat in case.
Oh. As a perfect elephant, the arrows of the evil hunter hit you, yet you only felt love and compassion for this harsh enemy, and you protected him. You gave him your fine and beautiful tusks and did not relinquish your discipline. You displayed such discipline many times. Protector, once you were a bear living in a mountain lair. At that time, you rescued a man, frightened and terrified, out of an avalanche. You served him roots and berries and provided him with every comfort. Although he soon killed you and carried you off, you remained patient. So all these previous lifetimes in different forms, as human, animal, so on and so forth, he benefited beings. Verse 79, Dharma teaching. It's all Dharma teaching, of course. The three worlds are unstable. Three worlds meaning desire realm, formless realm. We're in the desire realm of ordinary sense desires. Then through meditation, we can enter deeper states of awareness, the form and formless realm. But even they, of course, are caught up in impermanence. They're unstable. Like autumn clouds. The birth and death of beings is like watching a play. It's like that, isn't it? It's like watching a play. The life of a being passes quickly like a lightning bolt in the sky or a mountain stream. By the power of craving for existence and ignorance, beings take birth as humans, gods, or in the three lower realms. In their ignorance, they continuously circle among these 5 or 6, sometimes mentioned, existences, like the spinning of a potter's wheel. So sometimes in the teachings, you know, second noble truth of the 4 noble truths, the first one being truth of suffering. Second is truth of the cause of suffering, isn't it? And that is often just said to be ignorance and the, you know, craving, ignorance, disturbing emotions, and of course, karma. So beautiful forms, sweet sounds, fragrant smells, delicious tastes, pleasant touch. The snare, the trap of these unfortunate times has caught beings, like the hunter's trap catches a monkey. So when we pass through the duty-free in Delhi airport, we should feel like a monkey and the hunter is trying to trap us with the confectionery, the cigarettes, the alcohol, and the perfume, and take our money as well. Trap us and take our money. So the objects of enjoyment lead to much suffering and harm. They bring fear, make enemies, and lead to depravity. A noble being will reject them like a bowl of excrement, the edge of a sword, or poison ivy. The objects of enjoyment always bring fear and depravity. They make us suffer when we think of them, and they make us blind. They always produce causes of fear and are the root of suffering. They make the creeper, the vine of craving for existence, grow. Just like a terrifying fire pit, so the noble ones understand desire, or they see it like a great swamp, or like walking on swords, or like the edge of a knife smeared with honey. Madre, no. Like a viper's head or a bowl of excrement, so the wise ones understand desire. Desires are like a pang of pain, as fragile as a bird's egg, like a bone among dogs. They are the prime cause of enmity. And of course, they are like a moon reflected in water. These desired objects are like the moon reflected in water. They are like a reflection, like an echo, like an illusion, like a theater play, or like a dream. In this way, the noble ones perceive desired objects. They are momentary and empty, untrue as a magical illusion or mirage. They have no substance, like a bubble of water or foam. The learned ones realize that these objects emerge from conceptualization. That's such a, I mean, I wish I had studied more, then I could say more about this verse. But so much is just there in that verse. The wise ones realize all objects emerge from conceptualization. We cannot understand the world. We cannot really see things like we do without conceptualization. Those who want to go really much deeper into this can, of course, read the great treatises. But there's a very wonderful book which I've been reading the last year or so, put together by a good, very great, I think, Western scholar called Alan Wallace, and it's called Fathoming the Mind. Fathoming the Mind by Alan Wallace, and it's a commentary on the on a great sort of what shall I say, received teaching, or a what's it? What would one say it is? A kind of revelatory teaching by somebody called I think Dujong Limpa, a great 19th century, 18th century Lama. So it's a commentary on that, and it is extraordinary because he brings in modern science, quantum mechanics, scientific materialism, all these things in his discussion of this text, which is showing us how the mind is basically creating our reality, how it does that, and many, many verses on emptiness. It is just a very profound text and excellent commentary by Alan Wallace. Okay, Fathoming the Mind. So the learned ones realize that all these objects emerge from conceptualization. This is where we fall into the pit, through constant conceptualization, thinking and analyzing in the wrong way, conceptualizing. You know, Buddhas don't conceptualize at all. Buddhas don't need to conceptualize, meaning they don't need to have thoughts like we do. Everything happens in a spontaneous way, it is said, in the mind of a fully awakened person. So I well remember once, I think, maybe Situ Rinpoche teaching here at Tushita, saying that it's not like a Buddha has to think, okay, now at 3 o'clock I'm going to go and teach here or there. Everything just happens spontaneously at the right time for a Buddha, you know, for a fully awakened Buddha. They don't need to use memories or thoughts in the way that we do. Everything spontaneous knowledge, instantaneous, spontaneous awareness of everything that needs to be known to benefit others. So yeah, something very extraordinary. So these verses go on like that, on desire. Then we come to, yeah, again, many verses, each one we can relate with our life or with the lives of people we read about in the newspapers and so forth. When one is powerful with the best of wealth, grains, and possessions, one is liked and desired and acts like a child. Yet when the wealth is spent and suffering sets in, one is abandoned, just like an empty wilderness. And then we have a lot of material on old age. Old age. Just remind us, you know. When one is old and youth has passed, like a tree struck by lightning, one is worn out and terrifying to others, like a ruined house. Sage, quick, tell us how to avoid old age. Old age withers men and women, just as the malu ivy does to a thick sal forest. Old age robs one's diligence, energy, and power, like a person caught in a swamp. Old age makes the beautiful person ugly. Old age steals one's splendor, robs one's power. Old age takes your happiness and defeats you. Old age brings death and destroys your vital force. Charming. Verse 108, this is all, you know, death, yeah. All conditioned things come about based on causes and conditions, one causing the other. They arise in dependence, not independently, dependently. Yet all childish beings do not recognize this, that things are dependent. You know, we think things have intrinsic existence, and it also makes us not realize that we have to exert to create causes if we want certain results. And that if we don't want certain results, we should not create the causes for those unwanted results. Yeah. Chapter 13, verse 116. The consciousness ceases and then re-arises. The practitioner observes this arising and ceasing of consciousness. It goes nowhere. It does not come from anywhere. The practitioner perceives consciousness as empty and like an illusion. In this way, some scholars investigate. Where does this come from? Where does it proceed? They check in all directions and find that nothing really comes and nothing goes. So this is speaking now in those who've studied Nagarjuna will recognize this kind of language. The great Nagarjuna, the 2nd century great Pandit scholar who was very responsible for the spread of Mahayana philosophy, Mahayana Buddhism. So, and his texts on emptiness, on shunyata, are so famous. So there's a whole bunch of verses on on that. Beings are burned by attachment and anger, yet they are falsely imputed. Such ills are not for real. Guide, release the stream of nectar, the cooling waters of peace from the cloud of compassion. Matlab, we are so caught up in anger, attachment, not realizing that these are all like illusory phenomena. We take them as very real and solid and permanent, and we suffer. We are falsely projected. We have falsely conceptualized them. So they say, encouraging the prince to release the stream of nectar of the Dharma. Okay, 1 to 8. 8 o'clock already. then now this could be made into such a wonderful movie, or cartoon for children. All of this would be fascinating. This next chapter, which is called The King's Dream. The King's Dream. Yeah, I'm leaving out a lot of chapter 13. I'm sorry, there's so much there. We cannot possibly look at all that today, but I did want to touch on chapter 14. Yeah, towards the end of chapter 13, it is true that bodhisattvas demonstrate their occupation with consorts. You, however, should be at the forefront. Do not fall behind them. Anyway, so then chapter 14 called Dreams. So this is happening at the same time as the bodhisattva is being encouraged by gods and so forth to teach, to give up all these things and to teach. So while this was happening, a dream occurred to King Suddhodana. As he was sleeping, he dreamed that the bodhisattva was leaving the palace in the quiet of the night, surrounded by a host of gods. And as the bodhisattva left the palace, the king saw that he had become ordained and was wearing the saffron-colored robes. So when he woke up, he immediately asked his chamberlain, "Is the young prince with the consorts?" Chamberlain replied, "Yes, your majesty." King Suddhodana, sitting in the female quarters, thought to himself, "Then the young prince will surely leave us soon, as these omens foretell." As a sharp pain shot through his heart, he began to scheme. My young prince must never even set foot in the palace gardens. He must always remain inside with the maidens so that he will be addicted to their pleasures. He must never leave us. Then, in order for the young prince to enjoy himself, King Suddhodana erected 3 palaces for each of the 3 seasons, hot, rainy, and cold. And then he describes the palaces. Nevertheless, all the astrologers and fortune tellers kept making the same prediction, saying the young prince will leave through the gate of auspiciousness, some particular gate. So the king had massive door panels fitted into the gate of auspiciousness. Imagine, बहुत मेहनत कर रहा है राजा कि बेटा ना निकल सके. Massive door. They were so large, these panels, that it took 500 men to open and close each of them. Sochiye. The calls of these 500 men could be heard half a league away. Anyway, there were the king arranged constant young maidens around the bodhisattva, playing their instruments, singing songs, dancing for him. But he's seeing everything as illusory, and the king doesn't realize this. Bodhisattva, or maybe he realized this is a last-ditch attempt, last gasp attempt. At that point, the bodhisattva told his charioteer, "I will go to the park, so quick, go and prepare my chariot." The charioteer told Suddhodana this when he said, "The young prince wishes to visit the parks." The king thought, however, if I allow him to visit the parks, but the young prince must be surrounded by women. That way he can really enjoy amorous delights, and surely he will not leave us then. The king had such love for the bodhisattva, wanted to please him. He dispatched bell ringers and made the following announcements. Young prince will be visiting the pleasure grove. Make sure the prince doesn't catch sight of anything disagreeable. Take care that everything that is not beautiful has been removed. Every nice thing pleasing to the senses must be brought forth. So then the description of how they are making the place beautiful, as I imagine, what is it? Advani's daughter, son, kiska beta ka shadi hua abhi? Advani's? Ambani ka, yeah, so even greater than that, no doubt. I once had a rich friend. I went to his daughter's wedding at the Taj Hotel in Bombay. That was pretty splendid, but this would have been far, far, far more amazing. And what happens now certainly didn't happen at the Taj. Amid all this activity, while the Bodhisattva was exiting through the eastern gate of the city on his way to the parks, through the power of the Bodhisattva, the gods from the pure realms, there are some gods in the pure realms who are interested in the Dharma, who are on the side of the Dharma in that sense. They're not just totally addicted by their meditative bliss. The pure realms, these gods emanated an old man on the road ahead, a decrepit old man, so skinny that the veins on his body protruded, pretty much like mine. They'll be like that very soon. His teeth had fallen out, covered in wrinkles everywhere. His hair was gray and he was hunched over like the rafters in a gable roof. Weak and broken, he had to use a stick to keep himself from falling. He was in pain and his vitality was long gone. The only sounds that emerged from his throat were a dry wheezing. As he stood there on the road, with the weight of his upper body supported by his stick, all his limbs were shaking and trembling. When the Bodhisattva saw the man, he asked his charioteer the following, even though he already knew the answer. Charioteer, who is that decrepit man? He is so weak, emaciated, and wrinkled, head all gray, teeth few and far between. He sways in discomfort from side to side. Charioteer said, Your Highness, that man is overcome by old age. His senses are weak. He suffers greatly. His strength and energy are gone. His relatives despise him. No one looks after him. Unable to function, he has been abandoned like a piece of wood in the forest. The Bodhisattva asked, Is that a practice specific to his family, or could that happen to anyone? Quick, tell me the truth. Then I'll reflect on what I hear. The charioteer replied, Your Highness, that is not the practice of his caste or the state. All beings, for all beings, old age overcomes youth. Even your father, mother, friends, and relatives are not free from old age, nor is any other class of people. The Bodhisattva then remarked, Charioteer, how sad. Childish and ignorant beings do not see old age. Proud and crazed as they are in youth, I will go back now. Quick, turn my chariot around. If I shall also be old, how can I enjoy myself and play games? So the Bodhisattva turned his fine chariot around and returned to the city. So then he saw someone overcome by disease, and the same conversation with his charioteer. Health is just like a play in a dream. What wise person, having witnessed such unbearable terrors of disease, would have a positive view of playful games? And again, he went back. Then he saw dead man on a stretcher, people pulling their hair and crying and all, and so on and so forth. How sad that old age destroys youth. How sad that health is destroyed by various sicknesses. How sad that the life of a wise man does not last long. How sad that scholars are attached to pleasure. And all of this. So, then he saw I hadn't seen this version of it. In the simple stories, they say he just saw someone meditating under a tree. But here he was setting out to the northern gate, and he saw the gods rather emanated a mendicant in a sannyasi in the street where they were passing, and the Bodhisattva saw him and noticed he was peaceful, self-controlled, restrained, pure conduct. His eyes didn't wander but looked down ahead at a distance of 6 feet. His behavior was beautiful and exquisite, as was the way he walked. The way he looked ahead and to the left and right was also beautiful. When he bent and stretched his limbs, he did so in an exquisite manner. The way he wore his robes and his offering bowl was delightful to see. When he saw this monk, the Bodhisattva turned to the charioteer, asked him the following, even though he already knew the answer. Charioteer, who is this peaceful and calm person? He walks with his eyes towards the ground at a distance of 6 feet. His clothes are saffron-colored, his actions so peaceful. He carries his offering bowl and is not overbearing or haughty. Charioteer replied, Your Highness, that person is what we call a monk. He has abandoned sensual enjoyments and now acts in a very gentle manner. He has become a mendicant and searches for peace. Free from attachment and anger, he lives from offerings. The Bodhisattva said, "What you say is very true, and I agree. Wise beings always praise the life of a monk. Such a life is beneficial for oneself, and it also helps others. It is a happy life that results in the sweet nectar of immortality." And again he turned around, returned to the city. Now King Suddhodana both saw and heard that the Bodhisattva had been inspired in these ways. So in order to guard the Bodhisattva even more, he erected a perimeter wall around the palace. He dug trenches. He strengthened the gates. He posted guards, alerted his brave soldiers, even prepared the cavalry. So if you look at this at another level, what do we do to protect ourselves from renunciation? They were all in full armor in order to guard the Bodhisattva. Full army division at each of the junctions by the 4 city gates to keep watch day and night, told them to prevent the Bodhisattva from eloping. At the quarters of the consorts, he directed everyone to continuously sing and play music, not to stop for even a moment. How many channels on TV are going 24 hours? Huh? It's the same. You must apply all your skills to pleasure and games, he told them. Use all your female trickery. Keep persevering with the young prince so that when his mind becomes attached to you, he will not want to leave for the sake of ordination. On this topic, it said, at the gates there are men fond of combat, holding their swords aloft. There are elephants, horses, chariots, and men in armor on rows of elephants. Ditches have been dug. Tall walls and archways with turrets have been built. There are gates so solid that their noise can be heard for several miles. Sakyas are worried and keep guard day and night. Sorry, I suddenly jumped somewhere. Anyway, Yesab Horai, he's doing all this, So I think this is the kind of place in a serial on news Netflix where it stops, and then you have to wait for the next episode. So I think there we were, I think on verse 27 or something like that. But yeah, continuously, he will not want to leave for the sake of trickery. Yeah. The gates are so solid that their noise can be heard for several miles. If the holder of the Sakya lineage leaves, this royal line will be broken. Yeah. Watch over him, create hindrances so that the gentle being does not depart. So we'll stop there. Verse 31. We can have some discussion. I'm sorry, I hope it didn't get boring. I'm just simply relying on the power of the text itself and the blessings of the Buddha. It would make a good story, right? Some young people here should make cartoons for kids based on this. It would be so great. Instead of a lot of the other stuff, violent stuff they watch. Cartoon meaning it would be good for a lot of us adults as well, who at the end of a hard day's work in an office don't want to exert too much mental energy, don't have mental energy when we get home. Or a long day at the courts, you get home, you have a nice cartoon of the life of the Buddha. Maybe if you're married by then with kids, then you can watch Buddha's life story with your kids,
There's already a YouTube.
Is there?
Yeah.
On life of the Buddha?
Yeah.
In cartoon?
No. Not in cartoon.
Have to make a cartoon.
But there is one very long.
I think it's
Why
on
Joe?
Netflix. Geshe-la often suggests.
What was that? Who was in charge? Some big businessman did it? Being a Modi.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Kitne?
Very detailed.
54. This will require more, but to do it well, our cartoon mein hoga to bachchon ko bhi. Huh? It's well done.
Very dramatized.
But this is full of drama.
As certain characters, I think, like Devdatta's character and his mother's character, are a little bit like villainized more than
Huh.
it's accurate, I believe.
Acha.
But a lot of it, even Geshe-la said it, that it's quite accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
What is, yeah,
nice
good.
to watch.
It's called Life of Buddha.
Yeah.
Anyway, this,
It's called Life of the Buddha.
Life
BK,
of-
even if you search for just BK Modi's Buddha, the Buddha series for 54 episodes.
On YouTube?
Yes. So on, I don't think the whole thing is on YouTube, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
And
they're
also on
discussing
Netflix, I
BK
think.
Modi's Life of the Buddha,
It's on YouTube for sure.
which is in 54 episodes,
I remember seeing
and
it on Netflix. It was on that.
could be some of it on
platform.
YouTube as
YouTube
well.
पे है.
Maybe it's on YouTube now. I'm sorry.
ठीक है और क्या है थैंक यू ठीक है mercifully nothing
Anyone has any questions online?
online, no questions yet.
Please feel free to ask.
I think everyone is stunned by the life of the Buddha, and he hasn't even left the palace yet. But I just love this. I can imagine poor Sudodana going nuts trying to create all these defenses, you know. Can you imagine what he tried to do to keep his son from escaping? And, Ji, Ji.
After Buddha left and went to Bodhgaya, after Buddha left and he went to
Ji,
Bodhgaya,
yes.
did he ever have any contact with his family?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. After quite some time, he went back. I think he had to also receive some kind of scolding from his wife, but he is said to have really helped them all tremendously. And he even went to Tushita heaven, or one of the heavens where his mother had been reborn, because she had died, right, when he was very young. And he gave her teachings. And the place where it said he came back to earth from having taught his mother is Sankisa, or Sankasya, which is the westernmost Buddhist pilgrimage place in Uttar Pradesh, not very far from Manpuri in UP. Yeah. His Holiness's translator, Kailash Bodh, who translates into Hindi, he's from that area, Manpuri. There's a lot of Sakya, what call themselves Sakya Buddhists in that area. So, yeah. Yeah, he helped. And then his son, Rahul, he inspired, and Rahul became a monk and attained, I think, arhatship, at least, in that life. So it was never his intention, of course, to create any harm for any living being. And of course, if I remember one of my aunts here was very angry that the Buddha had left home, left his wife and kid. How could he do that? You know, she was quite annoyed. Sanjeev's mother, she was very annoyed. Kaise chhod diya? You know, what is this? Kaise samjhaye? You know. Anyway, he went back and did his duty by the family as well. I mean, to help your son attain arhatship is no small thing, and I'm sure his wife in the end forgave him, because anyway, she was such a noble woman anyway. She would have been able to handle it, and there was no deprivation in terms of material comforts for the family. Sudodana, yeah, he met his father too, I think, when he went back. Was his father still? Yeah, his father was still alive.
He also helped him die.
Helped him die, thank you. Helped his father die, well, that's a wonderful thing. That's amazing. So to have a fully awakened being help you die. And he would have created tremendous merit also, the father, by being the father of the Buddha, and by, although he did try to prevent him from leaving. But, yeah. So anyway, basically, I just want people to get inspired by the story. I have no commentary on it, really. I haven't done that kind of homework to give a commentary, but I was just inspired by seeing the verses painstakingly etched into panels as I said, on the western wall of the Muchalinda Lake, next to the Mahabodhi temple in Bodhgaya, sponsored by a very great Tibetan teacher, Darthang Tulku. He had that done. And so you can just walk and read the life of the Buddha, the Lalitavistara, in a beautiful English translation, as you walk around the pond within sight of the main temple. You know, you can look at the verses, you turn to your right, and you see the main temple to the north. Very inspiring place. It's quite beautiful. There's a sound of this machine, old-fashioned kind of machine, slowly going around in the water of the lake, I think to aerate it. So you have this soft sound in the background of this water mill, almost like an old-fashioned water mill kind of sound. And then a statue of the Buddha in the middle of the lake, commemorating his meditation during a thunderstorm when the Naga spirits then protected him from the rain. Very inspiring place. People should spend time in such places. And wherever I just make a habit of walking and then decide to just stop and go and point at a certain verse, and I stand. It's always very amazing. Sometimes very meaningful for the time also, I feel. Almost like not fortune telling, what's it called? Like like sometimes some of you may open a book and it's something very meaningful there for you, somehow appropriate for the time. So anyway, it's online now. It's on your mobile phones. You don't have to go to Bodhgaya to read it, but to do so in Bodhgaya could be very powerful for some people. So anyway,
I have a question.
please.
Yesterday we were talking about the results of actions.
What of action?
Results.
Results of action. Ah.
So many times, many times people, even in deep teachings, might not be able to, or hurt people sometimes, or are not kind to people. How can we justify that sort of people, those sort of people, in terms of, despite in deep teachings, are ignorant, are unaware?
I don't quite that they are what? They are despising these teachings or despite these teachings.
Maybe not despise it, but I don't know, not able to understand. Maybe after I know something.
How what? Yeah. I mean, so what are you saying? How should one respond to such people or help such people? What are you trying?
There is no parameter of somebody. Is there a parameter that after years and years of learning, you are taking some understanding of Buddha?
Of Buddha?
Of Buddhism. Is there a parameter?
I think everyone's different. I've spent, what's 23 plus 25? 48? So I've spent 48 years being a so-called Buddhist. I feel I'm just an idiot still. I don't know. So yeah, it depends how much effort you put in, how much study and meditation, especially, I think, and what kind of people, and not staying too late at parties and so forth. However enjoyable or however good the friends are, yeah, there's so many distractions. And I found that I can always justify some of my distractions saying that actually they're quite meaningful, but a distraction is a distraction. If it's taking one away from a concerted effort to understand something, like say death and impermanence, or the real meaning, what Buddha means by suffering, it's easy for the mind to want to just not really go into it and just distract yourself, So it takes time and proper effort and being with the right kind of people. And yeah, it can be useful to live near a meditation center and come and practice with people. And when really authentic teachers come, you should come and listen to them. You know, yeah, I'm just a kind of a joker, but you know, some real teachers who come, they are worth listening to because they have realizations. A realization means you have a deep understanding which has transformed your life. That's what I mean by realizing. Anyone can gain some intellectual knowledge of Buddhism. That's not difficult. People study it at universities, or you can study a book. You can know it off by heart, presumably, but whether it makes a difference in one's life or not is another matter. So, yeah. Students are supposed to have three qualities. They're supposed to be intelligent, they're supposed to have perseverance, you know, perseverance, and they're supposed to be unbiased. These are the three minimum qualities according to some teachings, which makes sense. You have to have intelligence, right? And you have to have perseverance, patience, and think in the long term. And you have to have an unbiased mind. You can't be going around just thinking, I know best, or scientific materialism is the answer. And if it can't be analyzed by scientific instruments, it doesn't exist. If we go around with those kind of biases, like most modern scientists, then we won't understand Buddhism, the deeper aspects of Buddhism. Of course, we can practice mindfulness and get some peace of mind, but that's not, some would argue that is not the essence of Buddhism at all. Just to become a little bit more peaceful through, you know, calming the mind. It's good, obviously, but that's a tiny part of it. But it's any questions online? Is that someone
Yes,
on?
sir. Hello, sir. This is Neha Upadhyay, Namo Buddhaya. Sorry, I'm unwell. I couldn't come to meet you.
Don't worry.
Yes, sir. I have a question about the Temple Act in Bodhgaya, and this year there were some protests, and
Yes.
and I'm curious to know your side because I read up a lot on Swami Vivekanand, who says who you know yes
Vivekanand, did you say?
Vivekanand, yes,
What does
who
he say?
really so he says that Buddhists and Brahmins should be friends, and
Yes,
yes, and the
everybody should be
separate
friends.
yes,
Yes,
the
everybody
separation
should.
is the reason for the downfall of India. It's in his book called Thus Spake, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really believe it, yes. But what happened in Bodh Gaya, all the Buddhists were speaking against the Brahmins, and
No,
they were
not all the Buddhists.
protesting.
I was
Okay,
not speaking against the Brahmins. Some of my
okay,
good friends at the main temple are Brahmins, actually.
okay,
One boy in particular who does the rituals inside the main temple in front of the Buddha statue. He does Hindu rituals. He's a good friend of mine. I
great.
think it's, of course, historically and in terms of what has happened in India, I can totally understand some people who are very insulted and upset that there
Yes,
might be Brahmin rituals inside a Buddhist temple. And of course, because I'm not a Dalit, I have not seen my friends or relations being abused by Brahmins or burnt to death. So of course, I have a different perspective. I've not suffered like many people have suffered due to caste Hinduism. So of course, they're going to have a different view. And for them, for sure, becoming Buddhist is an act of liberation, in a sense, social liberation. But I would argue that we cannot just see the Buddhist teaching as social liberation, however important that is, and it is important, but that is not the main essence of Buddhism. The main essence is to free ourselves completely from all forms of suffering, yeah,
yes, yes,
based on the four seals, yeah, one of which is nirvana is peace, yeah, and so forth. And of course, in the Mahayana, compassion is so emphasized. So, but from a personal point of view, I will say this. I'm a Buddhist, so-called, and I go to the temple. I have no problem doing the prayers and rituals I want to do. So I
yes,
have no problem. It's not like any Brahmin is trying to stop me doing my Buddhist practice. There's a masjid within 30 meters of the main temple. There's a Jagannath Mandir the other side of the main temple. You know, we're pretty tolerant, we Buddhists. You know, also we have not much choice, right? We're a tiny minority, especially in Bihar or Bodhgaya. I mean, very few Buddhists. So we have to be tolerant, you know. But of course, if people are making a political agenda out of it, that is problematic. But I have to say, and I'm sorry to say this, there are a lot of people who are engaged in this demonstration who didn't have anything better to do, is what I feel. These are people who don't meditate, who don't study.
You are right. Yeah.
But you know, people need a cause, right? And if you're angry, then you know many things happen through anger, right? And I think one of the things that has been positive in the Ambedkarite movement is more and more people practicing, so they understand what the Buddha taught, and they have become less angry at Hindus, and they are more interested in the teachings of the Buddha than being angry at Hindus, which is just meaningless. Because if you want to fight Hindus in this country, you're going to lose anyway, if you want to fight in that sense. It's not so useful to do. On the other hand, one should philosophically say, look, I may not agree that Buddha is an incarnation of Vishnu. But frankly, for me, it doesn't matter if it makes Hindus more pleasing. You know, if Hindus can be better friends with Buddhists because they think that Buddha is just a manifestation of Vishnu, then take it. Let them think it. You know, if it leads to harmony, of course, if they want to debate philosophically, that's another matter. But if that just leads to bad feelings, what's the point? And there's plenty of people around who just want to argue, isn't it? And who have anger within. So then that manifests in many different ways. So, of course, this is a manifestation of our modern society, and the polarization that has been happening, which you see in many, many countries in the world. People take sides, right? I mean, they've always been taking sides, and there's more and more of it now. So I would say this is, I don't know what the outcome is. It had gone to the Supreme Court. I don't know what happened to the case. Supreme Court, I'm sure, wouldn't have taken a very strong decision just yet. I mean, we would have heard of it. I think status is fine. At the moment, the main monks and the Hindus at the main temple get on very well. I don't care if they dress up a Buddhist statue in saffron and say it's one of the Panch Pandavas. I don't care. You know, main thing is that we practice. You know? Even when the Bamiyan Buddhas were destroyed, right, by the Taliban. Samdong Rinpoche, this great Lama teacher, was asked, "What do you think about this?" He said, well, you know, he said, they're only statues. You know, that's not the main point of Buddhism. Is not just statues. The main point is to practice and develop the qualities. So we get caught up in these symbols and rituals. I think it's just so childish and very painful. Of course, people are getting angry and upsetting each other, and the politicians will benefit, you see. The common people will not benefit. And
even in Ladakh and Nepal, we are seeing acts of violence, acts of division.
Of course. This is all this sense of bias, sense of uptightness, not being flexible. All of this is visible here. If people were to just read the life of the Buddha, read the texts, and just sit and calm down and pay attention and practice, there wouldn't be any problem. But most of the people demonstrating are not, I would say, practicing Buddhists at all. Kuch to karna hai na? Khali baith ke kya? So, join an andolan, join something, make a noise, get in the newspaper, be interviewed, ये तो कुछ लोगों को बहुत अच्छा लगता है.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
No, I think
Ajir Ji,
this question was raised, did Buddha come back to the palace? Yes, he came, and I really find very interesting. All the people who received him, including his father, and his wife did not come.
Acha.
And he asked, where is Yashodhara? and everyone said that she is in her room. And when she was requested that to be part of the receiving team, she said that no, if he wants to meet me, he can come to my room. And he went. And Yashodhara asked, what you have got, you could have got the same by being in the palace. And the answer given is very interesting. He said that I have left the palace to give up the royalty, the persona of royalty.
The pursuit of?
Persona of royalty.
Of?
Royalty.
Royalty.
Persona of royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost saying that if you would have continued, you would have been caught up in the persona of royalty.
Royalty, yeah.
So he said that, and I find that in that there's a great teaching. Because we all have that persona and we are caught in that. So can we give up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. And then he said, okay, I have come to every monk who comes, offering is made. What is the offering that you're going to give to me? So she took the hand of Rahul and said that this is the offering to you.
Oh.
Okay. So this is also a great lesson. For the mother, it is not the empire. It is the love of the child which is the strongest. Okay, that's the most precious. So it's almost saying that I'm giving the most precious thing of my life. So is it possible for us? Because when I think of giving 100 rupees, suddenly, oh, it's not any. 50 is enough. Oh, by the time I think 50, actual giving becomes 10 rupees. So I think how our mind really gets diluted, even in becoming religious. So I really find that there's very interesting dialogue between Yashodhara and Buddha. It's a very. But one of the questions which I really find, most of the books it is really written that Buddha came out and he saw these 4 people, the old age, this. Now, if you really go by the history, he came out, he left the palace at the age of 29. Does it mean that till that time, he has never seen anybody dying, anybody sick, anybody old man, and any wise person? Because he was a great student of all the classical things. I mean, he knew Sanskrit, everything. Does it mean that he has not seen any wise till the time he came out from that 29? I don't know. You read that the gods came out, they manifested. I don't know what was the age of Siddhartha at that time.
Yeah, I don't know how old he was.
Yeah.
This is to be seen in another way, isn't it? I mean, it says also he knew already the answer to the questions he was asking the charioteer. It seems to me that it points, as far as an ordinary person like me, how much we are in self-denial. We know these things exist, but we don't go into it deeply enough for it to affect us, and for us to change our ways. It doesn't go that deep. ठीक है होना है, कोई मर गया, you get upset for a while and you think about it, but then again, get distracted by habitual patterns.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm only saying the factual part of that.
How
much, because he fought war even. Okay. So.
Of course, Mahayana says he was already a Buddha, of course.
No, that's okay. That part really. I'm only saying that from the historical perspective.
Oh, historical.
Yeah. And then second is that you read also that the God realm people, they came down, they manifested. Why? Why did they come down? In the sense that if Buddha already knew that he was playing this, and this is before Buddha, he became Buddha.
Maybe the gods also represent some aspect of the Buddha's psyche, the higher level of mind. That's why, on one level, it just makes a very good story. It is a play. It's a play in full.
I have known some people who has come out from the National School of Drama. Read this,
yes.
see whether they can really stay there.
This would be wonderful.
Very powerful, colorful. Yeah.
It could be. It would be a grand thing. It would cost a lot of money to do it properly if they really wanted it to be. Yeah. It couldn't be done minimalist style. It would have to be full technicolor thing.
It's difficult to imagine that we didn't know that there could be death, there could be old age, could be people, who are sick.
Of course. But we are protected. Ji.
Is there any evidence that
people would have heard that, yeah, because of the microphone? People online would have heard it? Good. Yeah, thank you, Ajir Ji, very much.
Kabir Ji, is there any evidence, any historical evidence that a kingdom like this exists?
I think so, yes.
And person like Buddha.
Yes. Yeah. Plenty of ruins, plenty of, you go to Kapilvastu, Lumbini, go to Rajgir. Yeah, for sure. But the problem is we Indians didn't write things down much. It's the Chinese and the British who did a lot of the research later. The Chinese scholars wrote a lot down, I think, Fahian and Hinsang, 4th and 7th centuries, respectively. They made a lot of detailed notes, which then the British archaeologists followed. Cunningham, I think, based a lot of his discoveries on what the Chinese had written. Now, whether they're exactly as it's in the text, that is, of course, might not be the case. Did he really, is it historical evidence that as soon as he was born, he took 7 strides and said this and said that? But we do have cases, of course, nowadays of some young children are born, they're already reciting mantra when they're born. This has been known. Very auspicious signs occur for the mother during pregnancy and at birth. With some, with some high reincarnate lamas, this happens. So, history books mein ye sab nahi hai, but there's plenty of. Ji?
No, I said the kingdom is historical.
Yeah. The Sakya
What about
king.
this person, Gautam Siddhartha?
Who?
Siddhartha. What about evidence of this person? Is there any evidence, scientific evidence or historical evidence?
आपके बगल में बताएंगे प्रोफेसर.
Thank you, Kabir. I mean, I think there are 3 or 4 points here. One is, what is the limits of Western historical method?
Achha.
So, straight up, if you go into numismatics, archaeology, archaeological sources, we've already got away from oral sources. So, we can go into that and say that Shruti was always an old source of historical evidence. So, much of 1970s to 1990s, this kind of improvements of historical methods have already happened. So much of that kind of work has happened in subaltern studies and others. That's one kind of response one can do. The second would be to say something like Lalitavistara Sutra. I mean, the title itself is very clear. It is a play. Sort of. So how much do we take as quote unquote reality, and how much do we take? And if you look at the way teachings are ascribed to the Buddha or contemporary teachings which we see from the great masters, we always see these masters giving teachings according to the audience, to the particular person, which also would show that many sutras could be seen as contradictory to each other.
Yes.
But that is also perhaps because there are particular audience for each sutra and there are particular audience for each teachings as well. So in that way, when the title itself is a grand play,
yes,
the play is towards a particular set of audience who would find this kind of a meaning making and drama important.
Good point. Yeah.
The third is, if you look at again, historical evidence. We have in the last 15 years a series of work on the disappearance of Buddhism, Buddhadharma in India. And now there is an argument which has come up very clearly that the traditional notion of post-Nalanda, the Islamic conquest, removing Buddhism seems to be largely inaccurate. Seems to be the current historical new sort of a consensus. So if we take that seriously, that is not just coming from out of thin air. They are also doing historical methods with literary resources and so on. If you take that seriously, you also see a lot of accounts about historical accounts of a particular person who's ascribed as Buddha. And that kind of historical sources is very clear. That's three, but still it will never reach up to the Western historical method in that sense. That's to be said again. But 200 years post when Gautama Buddha was supposed to be there are written sources. There are archaeological sources. That is there. How to read that depends on where we come.
Thank you very much,
I just want to add, I think it's very interesting. Rahul became Arhat, and the and the system which he set up, it is called the Sarvastivadya. And this is the tradition which has gone to Tibet, and the Tibetan tradition has grown from there. If you listen to Geshe-la, everyone they will say that. This Sarvastivadin lineage has come from Rahul. Okay, because just for the information of the 18 Theravada system which were really there, only 3 survived. One is Theravada, which is there in the southern places like Sri Lanka and all. Second is the Dharma-gupta, which is there in China. And the third one is the Sarvastivadin, which is in Tibet. And the whole system goes from this one. I mean, to say that, yes, they have after Russian.
Thank you, Ajitji. Good. So, is that good now?
Yeah.
2 hours, 20 minutes? Yeah, doing quite well. It's not as long as a Hindi movie, but getting there. So yeah, we will continue. The saga will continue. I'll do some more research, do more reading. I'll be back in Bodhgaya on Friday mornings, so I'll visit the wall again and make more notes and try and get hold of a book. They ran out of copies of Lalitavistara at the Mahabodhi bookshop in Bodhgaya, but I'll try and get hold of something. And yeah. And then next time I'm in Delhi, maybe we can continue this. We'll see. Bakshish Satya,
Yes.
you have a question, sir?
Yes, Kabir Ji. I have a question. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very audible.
Yes. So I'm very new to the Buddhist philosophy, and it might sound like a naive question, but I would like you to shed some light on this. So if you can tell me, what is the difference between, like, Buddhism talks a lot about attachment, detachment. So what is the difference between detachment from the world and freedom within the world per se?
First of all, maybe the definition of attachment may be interesting for you. It's a mistaken kind of mind that exaggerates the attractive or positive qualities of something and wants to have it, wants to possess it. So the person who is not attached, who sees through the appearances of this world, may detach themselves from the attachment, may be detached, but may still have a lot of kindness and compassion for those in the world and see how they are caught up in their attachment, their ignorance, and so forth, and want to help them. So they can be detached in the sense that they are not attached to the pleasures that most ordinary people are, but they are not indifferent, and they certainly want as much as possible to help others. So in the Mahayana, we would say such people want to come back again and again into the world, but not in order to, get sunk in the swamp of attachment, but to, benefit others who are sinking. They have seen through the appearances that seem so attractive and so forth, but they have not lost by any means their love and compassion for others. So they want to continue being in the world, but not of the world in that sense, not caught up in the world, but they are here among us in order to help us. Yeah. Does that begin to answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does. I had one more question, not a follow-up to this, if I could ask.
Please, yeah.
Yes. So, how does Bodhisattva's vow reconcile with the idea of self and also the sometimes the act of saving others?
What's
in the
the
process?
contradiction? Why do you see a contradiction?
I see that self and saving others, these probably can be two different things.
The self is merely a label, sir, given to the combination of body and mind. Maybe you can look at it that way. We act in the world, we say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. We have to use a pronoun, we have a name, but it's just a name. We don't need to get attached to some kind of solid little person inside. We are a flow of different mental and physical activities. You could look at it that way. There is a continuous flow of activity based on many mental and physical factors that make up what we call a person, or what we call Bakshish, Satya, or Kabir Saxena, or whatever. So there is no contradiction whatsoever. Of course, if you mean by self that we become arrogant or pretentious, then of course that is contradicting Bodhisattva vow if we're full of ourselves, as we say in English. But self, we don't have to grasp onto the self. Self is just a word, it's a name, it's a label given to a combination of this psychophysical phenomena, which is a human being. That's all. Yeah. And we have the Buddha nature, we have all these potentials, latent potentials to be able to help others. So that's what we activate through Buddhist practice. Yeah, that's one way to answer your question. There may be other ways. Yeah.
Thank you, Kabir.
Thank you, sir. Neha, did you have a question, or was it you asking about the temple? You had your hand up earlier.
Yes, it was me, and you answered it beautifully. Thank you.
Okay. That's it, I think. Maybe we stop there. People have to get home in the thick fog, or actually the thin fog. And so again, thank you all very much. Due to the kindness of each of us, we have the session, and due to Tushita and the helpers here. So we have to remember the kindness of others again and again, something His Holiness advises. In short, often His Holiness has said, if you want a short teaching, then he said, remember the kindness of others and see all phenomena as like a dream. So this can be applied to anything. The Bodhgaya temple situation, that is also, remember the kindness of everyone. Remember it's like a dream, not to take anything too seriously, Nothing is solid, unchanging. Oneself is not solid and unchanging. So everyone we meet can be seen as kind, because depending on everyone, we can develop certain kind of qualities, and of course, some are so important in our lives that we depended on them for our very survival. But the people who annoy us, whoever they are, they also help us develop patience. So may we have plenty of people in our life who can help us develop patience. without it overwhelming us. May we never be separated from the Mahayana Dharma. May all of our spiritual friends, all of our spiritual teachers have long and healthy lives. May they flourish the Dharma in the ways that they wish to, especially His Holiness Dalai Lama and all the other great teachers. May their holy wishes be fulfilled. May Lama Zopa Rinpoche's wishes for this center, Tushita, and all the centers in the world of our foundation, may they be successful in benefiting more and more people. May we in our personal practice develop more and more love, compassion, and spirit, energy to practice. May whoever comes into contact with us in any way, may it benefit them. Whatever the nature of the contact, may it benefit people. May we have long and healthy lives and be able to practice as much as we can. And by reflecting on, listening to verses from the Lalitavistara, may it inspire us to follow in the footsteps of the awakened ones. Yonjo semjo rinpoche make panam ke krechi ke pa nyamba me pa yang gangne gangdu belwara shu ngare rawe korwe jingam de pentan dewa malu chumwe chere ziwan tenzing yapso yi jape zite bardu tengyu chi. Prayers for development, growth of bodhicitta, and for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And as a center under the spiritual directorship of late Lama Zopa Rinpoche, we also dedicate that his reincarnation be identified and that his education and nurture may happen in the best possible way for his well-being and for us in the future to benefit from his continued teachings and guidance. And many thanks to all of you who took the trouble to come tonight and for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kabir Ji, for teaching us, and we're hoping to hear more from you again soon.
Well, thank you. Just nice to share a great text. There was no
teaching online and offline.
Thank you, Apurva-ji. ये क्या है? अरे no need. खाने का सामान है? Just for thank you. Yeah, thank you to everyone who works here.
Yes.